Welcome to the Second Renaissance podcast, where we decode the rebirth of human creativity in a technology-driven world. I'm Anders Sorman-Nilsson, global futurist, author, and the co-creator of the Adobe CQ, the IQ test for your creative leadership, and your host for the Second Renaissance. Vince Frost is a globally recognized and awarded designer. Before starting Frost Design in London in 1994, he was the youngest associate director at Pentagram. In 2004, Vince relocated to Sydney, where as CEO and ECD of Frost Collective, he's worked with leading arts and cultural organizations, governments, and businesses to help bring visionary ideas to life. A member of ISTD and AGI, Vince is the author of 2 books, including Design Your Life, which we'll be exploring in the podcast, which looks at how design has the power to positively transform not just business, but our daily lives. His popular Design Your Life podcast discusses his theory with design visionaries from across the globe. He's been the subject of a retrospective at Sydney Opera House, and he continues to be an international ambassador for the design industry, judging and speaking on the value of design and how it can change people's lives for the better. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm inviting you up to like what's going to be your new home, essentially, up here on the northern beaches, right?
Yeah. Don't plug it too hard in case it falls through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited. This northern beaches, especially this area here, Avalon around here, I just absolutely love.
So I'm just curious. So you've had like your creative sort of center has been more in the sort of eastern suburbs over the last few years, but now COVID's enabled you to potentially move out of town.
Well, I started like a long time ago, back in England. So I've been around the world, worked in London, set my studio up in London, 94, 10 years there. 1 year in Tokyo, Japan on art directing Japanese Vogue. And then I had opportunity to bring my business to Australia. And that was like 18 years ago, which has flown by. And been pretty focused on Sydney, actually. At the time I had a very young family, and the kids are much older now. But, it's always been exciting, challenging times. I know COVID's been extra challenging for a lot of people, and I feel for people who have really been struggling with that. But I see that, I do still see even times when they're tougher, there's opportunities everywhere. And I'm a Sagittarius, and Sagittarians are very optimistic, and I think that's kind of where that comes from. But I've been navigating that, and we're teams based in Sydney, but we're working in Sydney probably about 80% of our work. But equally, we're working around Australia and jobs in Russia, Kuala Lumpur, other places as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about your very sort of global background and your nomadic moves. I read in your book you've at the time had lived or moved about 44 times. So yeah. I'm sitting here with Vince Frost, who of course is the founder of the Frost Collective, designer extraordinaire, talking to us on the Second Renaissance, which is of course the idea that we're living through this really creative moment at the moment, accelerated even through COVID, and that hopefully there's a re-emergence and a sort of a rebalancing of human cognition where we spend more time being creative in the future. One of the sort of central tenets when I was reading your book, Vince, is the idea that, as a designer, you'd been looking at, graphic design and typography and brand, etc. But at some point you kind of put that design mirror on yourself and said, hey, how can I better take design principles and actually apply it to my own life? Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I've been working for a very long time solving other people's problems. And, people come to us with a brief, an opportunity, and a timeline, and we agree a budget, and we argue about that probably, and we argue about the fees. But we finally agree on what we're going to do and by when. It's very different to normal everyday life. As an individual, you tend to put yourself last. You tend to not give yourself a deadline or hold yourself accountable to things. So you often put your family or your work or your career or other things in front of yourself. And I kept getting sick through stress and through working too hard and probably drinking too much and doing too much of a lot of things that aren't meant to be good for you. And I just kept doing this time and time again. And I just realized I hit a wall every time. I called it man flu, but it was just, I just hit kind of rock bottom. And I kept thinking, talked to all kinds of consultants and trying to work out how to do it better. What am I doing wrong? Because I'm just doing everything. Is that me? I'm just doing everything at 100 miles an hour. I'm just trying to get through what life throws at me. And I guess what I realized was I thought, you know what? What if I start applying my design principles or my design approach to my own life? And that can be around setting myself goals or a goal or what do I want to do with my life as opposed to just living day by day, which is how I was. I was living very reactive to the situation. I would say yes to everything and just go along with it and just be busy, busy, busy. And so I just started to kind of trial this. I started to what I call get fittish. I'm kind of like, I always try to make everything that we do perfect. And I know it's impossible, but I have very strong and very high standards. And I want to ensure that whatever we do it the best we possibly can. But when you apply that to your life, it's sometimes intimidating and very much intimidating when it comes to, unless you're an Olympic athlete, you aim for perfection. You aim to be the best in the world. But if you're just a human being like I am, you just really need to be fittish, not a superstar, not an athlete. And I guess I kept thinking, I kept intimidating myself and not, I kept failing continuously until I took this different approach. I was drinking too much as well. The society today, and has been for a very long time, we think having a glass of wine, an event, or after with a meal, or in the evening after a hard day's work, is kind of good and relaxing and kind of a.
You're going to upset like 80 million Italians and a lot of French nationals right now with what you're about to say next, I imagine.
But that glass became a bottle, became 2 bottles a night, and I was in this constant state. I already was fucked, but I was just in the constant state of repair. And so I was actually working against myself, and I wasn't really aware of that. But there was a whole bunch of things too, is around having a clear vision of, a longer term plan. So from me, for my family, for my business, that helped enormously. And then I kind of drew it out and started working on a timeline. And yes, I slipped, but at least I kind of kept realigning to it and going back on track and focusing on what I wanted to achieve. And it changed things dramatically for me.
So Vince Frost became Vince Foster's client, in a sense.
Yeah. I started taking my own advice. It's kind of hard. I mean, because I still.
Oh, you look great, Vince.
I'm not super fit, but I'm definitely a hell of a lot healthier, much more able to tackle life in a positive way, and I have a clear direction, which I feel has made a massive difference for me.
Yeah, and I know even when we were chatting yesterday, you said that you're starting the day today with a gym session prior to coming up here to Bilgola. So
yeah, no, it's just walking. If you can walk 10,000 steps a day, that's the minimum I think you could do. Do half that but just do something. Just move. We're designed to move if you can. Obviously, not everybody. Some people are not able to, but I mean, the majority of us can actually move, and a lot of us don't move.
So I'm just thinking, for the people who are on the show, who are listening to this, who don't necessarily, identify as traditionally creative, or think that, the world of design might sound, intimidating, or something that, only creatives and people in advertising do, and the madmen and women of the world. What are some of those sort of central design tenets that you could apply either to an important life project or even to yourself?
I think that again, I guess society has kind of made a difference between what we call creative people and non-creative people. I believe everybody in this world is creative. You're born creative. You're not born uncreative. You're not born to be a mathematician. You're not born to be a builder. You're not born to be a graphic designer. You're a human being who has equal number of senses of everybody else, and you're kind of a clean slate. And it's what you take on, what you take in from around you, your family, your society, or whatever's going on around you. I was influenced by being absolutely appalling at the academic side of my education. So it's I think that so everybody is born creative. Unfortunately, a lot of education drums that out of us, makes us neat, tidy, sit down, shut up, listen, repeat after me, all this kind of stuff, which is really not very nice, not very good for the soul or good for your humanity, etc. So I think that the first thing I would say is don't think you're not creative, because we have clients come in all the time in suits, coming for a meeting, and they go, you guys are so out of cool space. You're so lucky to be creative people. Like I used to be able to draw, but I kind of stopped, and they kind of feel bad about themselves. And I go, well, don't feel bad about yourself. Next time they come in, they've taken the tie off. Next time they come, they're wearing a T-shirt. They sort of feel kind of more relaxed in their skin, feel more relaxed about themselves, and actually enjoying the creative process, because we're actually very inclusive with our clients in that process. So I think the first thing is don't think that it's some kind of secret club that you've got to be a creative person to be part of. Every single person is creative, whether you're cooking something, the way that you walk, the way that you laugh, the way that everything about you has an opportunity and personality and an unique trait that actually is quite special to you. And I guess it's like, learn to be confident with who you are. Learn to feel comfortable in your skin. A lot of us don't feel that way. A lot of us don't feel confident in the ways of expressing ourselves.
Yeah, we were just we were exploring sort of for those that consider themselves non-traditionally or non-creatives, maybe in terms of who they identify with, what are the sort of design principles or tenets that they can sort of apply in their own lives, if based upon these concepts in your book, Design Your Life, which is, you can actually treat yourself as a design project.
Yeah, I think that spend some time kind of thinking about your goals. We're all very good at procrastinating. We're all very good at getting distracted, or putting things off. But sit down and be comfortable with it being uncomfortable. Sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, or whatever you want to use. You can use technology. And just sit down and write down all the things that you like, all the things you like in your life, all the things you don't like in your life, what you kind of aspire to. In a way, kind of create your own brief. I find that quite hard, because I actually find it really easier if a client comes to me with the brief, because they've already thought about what they want and what they want to achieve, etc. All we have to do is work out how to do that. But with an individual you should sit down and kind of spend some time. And you might not crack it like the first time. You might need to keep coming back to it. But just think about if you could live your ideal life. And it's not about money. It's not about all these other things, the fanciest house in the world. But if you could live your ideal life, what would it look like? You might already be 60% there. You might be 30% there. You might be 90% there. But there's always room for kind of setting that brief, giving yourself tasks or things, aspects of that you would think that you could contribute towards making your life better or achieving your goal. Stick it on a wall. Maybe do a mood board. Maybe cut pictures out of magazines or something, and stick them on your wall in your bathroom or somewhere where you go every day, to remind yourself of what you're aspiring to, or to help kind of remind you and keep you on track. There's a whole bunch of different things. I think also around just getting out and going for a walk every morning if you can. And you could always find time for half an hour walk, an hour walk in your day, no matter how busy you are. And it makes a massive difference to actually how you feel. You feel so much better. I personally, if I don't do that for a week, I'm pent up, I'm stressed, I'm nasty. I'm not a nice person to be around.
You're leaking energy, yeah.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And so that helps enormously. I think big thing is to learn how to kind of trust yourself as well. Trust your gut, trust your intuition, your instincts, Listen to people around you and advisors, but don't live other people's lives, Hang around people that you like, that you feel good around. Hang around people that you aspire, who influence you in a positive way. Stay clear of people that are negative and destructive and putting you down or creating a kind of negativity that is not healthy for you. I think it's really important to think that always ask a question: what if I could? What if I can? Versus immediately going into the negative of thinking, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this, But what if you could? What if you could achieve what you want to do? What if you could do a task that you think on first glance is not possible, I haven't read my book for a while, so I can't remember all of the different things.
You're doing a good job. It's all muscle memory, so you're refreshing it nicely. I'm just curious. So if Vince, in the present moment, had to give Vince Jr. some design advice, is there a particular period that you wish you could have redesigned in retrospect, or a particular time when you wish you had this eureka moment earlier to take a sort of a design approach to your own life?
Yeah, I think. I think life is about learning. And I think, thank God, certainly in my career and my life, I feel like every day I'm learning, continue to learn, I thought when I left art school after a 2-year very casual course that I was done. It was like, now I work. But it's nothing like that at all, actually. And that's a wonderful thing of life. So I think that looking at my life back, I'm 55 now. I'm not ancient, but I'm not 25. When I look back, one thing that comes really clear to me is that I haven't been in the past embracing today. I get on with today and I'm excited, I'm positive, I'm pumped about today. But my today is thinking about the future. My today is getting things done that will appear in a week or 2 weeks or a month or a year, whatever it might be. I'm constantly thinking about it will get better. My business will be here. I will be healthier, or, things will be sorted out in the future. So I think that stands out for me is actually, I've been to multiple shrinks. I've been to many counselors and stuff trying to work this out, is that, and I've been reading a book called Still, and, now there's a whole there's a big movement, massive movement now actually around, which is also stressful trying to read it all, but this is around enjoying the now, enjoying the moment. If today was all we had, how would you approach it differently? And I think that I've been running at 100 miles an hour my whole life, and questioning why I've been doing that. Not necessarily having the answers, but because if you stop, all of a sudden you have this massive void.
Yeah, absolutely. Like and I think just reflecting on what you're saying there, I think that, a couple of things stand out that sort of resonate with me as well. Just been rereading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning as a really great sort of ode to finding, your own sense of purpose, the big why, and that, if the why is clear enough, and I'm paraphrasing, man can withstand anyhow, or get through anyhow. And then, of course, there's this huge movement, I think, building at the moment based upon, Eckhart Tolle's, Power of Now, and
absolutely,
and some of the other concepts you mentioned there as well. And the only thing is, it can get a bit stressful when you're trying to meditate every day on your iPhone, and you're getting a little nudges saying it's time to meditate.
Yeah.
This is the irony of the digital disconnect, or the fact that we have to be reminded to actually be mindful by our digital devices who distract us from digital distraction by digital distraction.
Yeah. I think what you were saying too, just around his focus on purpose is actually, that's one thing I realized for a long time. I kind of thought I'm just doing design, just running a business. But actually, when I dig deeper, I realized that actually I'm on this earth to help people. I'm not just here to do design. I'm not just here to do brands or environments or whatever it might be. But I'm here to help people. If I change that focus, if I go, okay, every day I have an opportunity to help people. People need my help, whether it's health or whether it's a brand or whether it's my kids or whatever it might be. You could be rebranding a city. You could be working on a hospital. You could do a whole bunch of different things that are actually, if you change your focus on what is my purpose, and my business purpose is to design a better world. It's not just to make shitloads of money or just do great design. It actually is about adding value. And if you can focus on doing good and contributing to the society and to the world in a positive way, it's massively rewarding. And it really does connect with your inner, your heart, your soul, and everything around that.
I'm just tuning into this idea of designing a better world, right? I think discourse, communication, conversation like these, and in politics and in environmental, etc., are crucial to getting us beyond certain stalemates. Whether it's climate change or other big global problems. Do you see a role for design in terms of redesigning? You said design a better world. I'm just curious to see, what do you see as the really terrible designs that are holding us back? I mean, either it can be anything from the way politics is designed to our our energy grid. Are there particular things you've been philosophizing about where you kind of go, hey, this is the reason that the world is in this mess is because of this design problem?
Well, I think everything excluding nature, and you could say that the big designer up there designed the world and designed nature, etc. But us human beings, the human race, has designed everything else, and everything around us, everything in this room, everything, our cars, everything, the systems, it's all been designed, and not everything has been designed well, and not everything's been designed with wellness in mind, happiness or well-being. You could look at a house and you could say that house has been really well designed. That house is not well designed. That house is designed specifically for people's needs. That house is just a box, and it's not functional. Someone's just done it, whatever. I think that we've been looking a lot at focusing on human-centered design. So again, we focus on humans. We focus on what they actually need. What will add value to how do we connect to these people in a meaningful way? Sustainability. We've done a whole bunch of defrost podcasts, webinars recently, and we've had some amazing guests come in and talk about sustainability, what they're doing as organizations, and whether they're a super fund, whether they're VC investment business and property, product designers, et cetera, et cetera. There's amazing amount of people now coming to the surface, I guess, who have kind of becoming highly visible because the world is in a state of shock. We had the big fires. Climate change has been a major concern, and it's been for a long, long time. It's been talked about, but it wasn't till last Christmas when we had the big fires that people started to go, "Holy crap, this might be real." The skeptics even started to believe that this is real and something needs to be done. We had a huge influx of clients coming to us going, what can we do as an organization? These are banks, these are startups, there's a whole array of people coming in and going, what can we do to contribute to the world in a positive way? What can we do to reduce our footprint? What can we do to be a more sustainable business? And we just went to a launch last night of a brand we just helped create called Beckon. And they are a development business, but they're also they're fundraising business as well, and their business is actually about creating communities with meaning, with value for individuals, families, organizations, and stuff. And it's just incredible to see, all these head guys from Goldman Sachs. They're now part of this business. And it's a relatively small business, 17 people, but they're already doing projects for between $10 and $100 million, and they're doing good. They're adding value. They've got incredible ethics, and they're contributing in a positive way to society. And I'm seeing that they're popping up all over the place.
Yeah. Do you feel like we're going through, weird, zeitgeist question here, maybe, of the spirit of our times? Do you see that there's a paradigm shift in the sort of human consciousness, or even in sort of conscious capitalism here, that there is a pivotal moment at the moment?
I definitely do. We've been working with Oz Harvest for maybe 12 years now, and we help.
So this is Ronnie Khan's organization that essentially distribute meals to the needy.
So they get food from hotels, restaurants, supermarkets, etc., and redistribute the food around the country to people who are in need. Incredible organization. And you'd think that it wouldn't have grown beyond one van. I think they've now got 35 vans, and they're in multiple places around the world. And we worked with her for a very long time. But what I thought was interesting when working with her originally was that she's the doing good. When I saw her in action, she's like attracts so many volunteers and so many people that actually want to partake and want to contribute to helping out. And I think it's our human nature to do so. But I think that capitalism has really screwed things up. It was all about greed, about more. It's about the big corporations controlling us and the world, etc. And my parents were kind of hippies in the 70s, so back in Canada. So kind of I was always aware to an alternative lifestyle around the caring about the planet, caring about animals, caring about each other, doing good and doing the right thing. And for a long time, I thought that was a bit of a kind of a hokey, hippie kind of thing. And over time, over the last, 30, well, more than that, 50 years actually, you just see that approach to life is moving towards the norm, is moving towards becoming how more and more people approach their lives. People have rediscovered their heart. They've rediscovered creativity. They've rediscovered that they actually can make a positive difference in the world, even with small efforts or small things, etc. So it just feels like there's kind of a real groundswell of positive, can-do, conscientious efforts. And I think that I have a feeling that people feel better for that themselves.
And I guess it's, I think back to the sort of, the spokespeople of the sort of environmental movement, and without doing a massive sort of history lesson here, or, throwing, our minds back too far into the recent past. But, someone like Al Gore with An Inconvenient Truth, obviously, he designed a really interesting, riveting sort of narrative around all of this. Yeah. And I think there was some, a beginning of a groundswell movement back in the mid 2000s. And certainly, he was standing on the shoulders of giants before, but I think it wasn't really until, a Swedish teenager, Greta Thunberg, came out to sort of represent that, us adults actually have a duty of care for the next generation, that maybe the right spokesperson and spokespeople were there. It was almost like there was, without any sort of criticism to Al Gore, but, in some ways, it's even more authentic when, you know, when a 16, 17
Oh, yeah.
year old speaks up. Have you got any reflections on, just from a design perspective, on how the narrative of climate change can now be told?
Well, I think that, I mean, God, there's still skeptics out there that think it's a big hoax. You hear it every day on the news, you know, people talking about it like that. But I think like Al Gore, I mean, it wasn't that long ago he came out with that. And it's interesting that, well, how long ago was that? Was it 10 years ago?
It's about 15 years
15
ago.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
In a way, it's kind of, it felt like you look back, oh, that was ahead of its time. But there's also people prior to that, you know, making those statements and
Like
showing
your
that.
parents, probably,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I guess he was a very visible guy that people took very seriously, and he surrounded himself with the scientists and the experts to be able to communicate that. Yeah, when I was really interesting, obviously recently, to see her sail from country to country. You know, she wouldn't even get a plane. It's that much of a purist, and it's just incredible the efforts that she made to go to a variety of conventions and be the spokesperson for, you know, the younger generation. And I mean, you really felt it. And obviously, I don't know, what would have happened if we hadn't had the fires? I mean, hopefully we don't have those fires again this Christmas. But what if we do? What if it becomes a regular event? But certainly the combination of a whole bunch of things, quite quickly followed by COVID, I think that people are scared shitless that this is the end of the world.
And I think, and of course the fires you're referring to are the Australian bushfires of 2019, early 2020, and I think what you're seeing there though is also, you know, from a design perspective here, like there's an art and a science. There's a narrative to Greta Thunberg. It's the emotional appeal. It's her as a symbol of, you know, of the youth of tomorrow, you know, the youth of today and the world of tomorrow. I think there's also the science though that is now more in our consciousness as well, which is, you know, you see the bushfires ravaging in Australia or in California more recently. There's certainly more of an attachment and I guess a reawakening of an awareness of science, even through COVID, a focus on the numbers. But then there's been a strong design element, which is that how do you actually teach people about exponentiality or you know, the acceleration of the melting of the of the ice caps. How, you know, through great infographics, we're able to actually understand numbers, whether we're left brain or right brain. I know this is something you talk about in the book. You have people who are maybe a bit more STEM, you know, sciences, technology, engineering, and maths based in their thinking, and people who are maybe traditionally more, you know, innovative, interpersonal, emotional. Some people would say creative, but we know creativity can kind of span both of those hemispheres. So there is an art and a science to communicating these big global problems. What do you think for those people that aren't necessarily very scientific or don't take the numbers seriously or the facts seriously? What role can design play in you know, in moving people's hearts and minds?
Well, I think obviously, you know, great, well-designed graphs and graphics and the numbers actually helps people understand it more clearly. So I do think that is understanding the facts in the simplest way possible is obviously a design opportunity. I think that. God, what was the question? Now I forgot the question.
Art and science, and getting people more attached, I guess, or awakened to the importance of science and numbers through design.
I think it comes back to even this project we did yesterday, which we launched back in. You know, we've humanized that brand, a brand that kind of could have looked very corporate.
Design.
I mean, I think it's all creativity has such an opportunity right now. And I think that people are I've never seen people be more creative than today. And certainly in sectors that aren't traditionally known as being creative. I see across all of our clients and across a lot of businesses, etc. On the news continuously, there's just people are looking at different ways of doing things better. And that comes down, creativity is around ideas, generating ideas and choosing what is the best idea and actioning those ideas. I saw BP were on the news, the CEO on the news, I think on the weekend, saying that they're going to be completely green by 2050 or something like that. There's organizations coming out and just announcing we're going to be doing the right thing. We're going to be doing solar power farms and wind farms and all this kind of stuff. There's creativity and thinking and idea generation as at an all-time high. And is that survival? Are they going, shit, this is it. We've got to sort this out. The ones with the conscience are actually going ahead and doing incredible things.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing to see that. So creativity has a power to do anything,
I think
good and bad.
Yeah, and I think creativity as well is always enhanced in some ways when it's, creativity within constraints. If you have whether it's a set budget or it's a timeline, no matter what it happens to be, creativity can actually be a great way of, hacking a process or, squeezing the most lemon out of the, squeezing the most juice out of the lemon, as it were. Easy to say if you're Swedish. I'm curious, just when you hear the word, and again, I'm testing your history skills here, but when you hear the word Renaissance, speaking about creativity, what are the sort of word associations or the thoughts and feelings that the word Renaissance brings up for you?
Well, what do you mean by it? Like the second Renaissance?
So I'm focused here actually more on the kind of like the first Renaissance. So we're talking Renaissance Italy, for example. So Florence after the Black Plague, for example, you had this flourishing of creativity and art and political thought, etc. Investments even in technology and labor-saving devices. I'm just curious. I mean, the term Renaissance, I guess, is a revival of something new. But it was the first Renaissance essentially was this sort of revival of old school thinking, but it led to this new explosion post the first after the pandemic of the Black Plague.
I guess because I'm in it every day, I don't see it as a renaissance because I just see it as I personally have been doing creativity and working in the creative industry and promoting creativity in our industry as well. I see that this is it hasn't didn't stop and then it's kind of now bang, it's all started or anything. I feel like it's ongoing, but the emphasis, the momentum is increased because of what's been going on. And as I said, it could just be around survival, businesses trying to survive, trying to work out how to be better. I mean, we constantly being people coming and going, how do we refine our business? How do we get really focused? People have realized that they've just been going about their business. They haven't been really focused, haven't been as lean as they could be, haven't been as sharp and as effective and focused as they can be. I think the focus is there more than probably ever before. And I really do put it down to survival. I think it also, people see this as an opportunity. So people are going, how can I do well out of this situation? And again, it's survival. It's like, it's not just sitting back and just hope it all goes away. It's like, okay, people go into creative overdrive. People go into lateral thinking. People go into collaborative co-creation. People coming together and going, there has to be a better way. People have realigned. They had time. A lot of people had time to stop or slow down and to rethink their world, their lives, their careers, etc. And it's given them that kind of insight to come out of it with a different perspective on the world. And that's en masse. I think en masse is actually feeling like reconnection with your home, reconnection with your family, a reconnection with having less potentially, a reconnection with quality and slowing things down. It's been absolutely scary for a lot of people. But once that scariness, and that's of course around the world, people still in the height of it. But I think that what's been interesting is certainly with me and people that I know, that has really made people kind of become better humans as a result of that. And I think that's what at the heart of it is. We're all just human beings trying to make it, make the best of it all. And I think that realignment with ourselves and the earth has made a really important reconnection with our human instincts. And all of us are mostly and generally about doing well, about contributing, about being nice, about being kind, all these things which are positive things, attributes that make the world go round. There's been so much kind of destruction, nastiness, evil, greed over a very, very long time. And I think that people have kind of, the masses of realizing this is no longer acceptable, that equality is a priority.
So it sounds like the Frost Collective and your mission of designing a better world is right on point. We are kind of in the end zone here, Vince. What are the one or two or three sort of major lessons with this circuit breaker that has been COVID in your own life? Have you seen that you've made any big changes in terms of how the virus has caused you to kind of redesign anything about your own life? You mentioned before that you've just turned 55. You're designing the second part of your life. Has COVID accelerated it?
Yeah. I'm sure I won't live to 110. But yeah, I think that what it taught me, and I'm a single dad, and I got 3 kids, and 2 of my kids live with me still. It definitely. It was all new. The whole COVID thing was new to everybody. It was no one's experienced this before. And to be stuck in the house that you normally escape to as soon as you get out of bed every day, stuck in your house day in, day out, at first was scary and kind of torturous and uncertain. But over time, I mean, not everyone's like this, because some people have wonderful families and they, close and warm and all that, and they slowed things down, etc. But when you're living a life which is like it feels like 100 miles an hour, you kind of lose touch with the things that really, really matter, and that is your family, your environment, your place, etc. People, friends, and all that, loved ones. I think that for me, that really started to make a big difference, to how I felt. Because I mean, when COVID started, and prior to that with the fires and stuff, I was highly concerned. I've got like 40 people in my team. I thought that was the end of our business. I thought, I've been through recessions before in the UK, which were huge. And I was. My optimism was actually not in a good state, and it was incredibly scary. And if you sit down and listen to the news all the time, that reinforces that, probably to an unrealistic kind of position. But I was just like, this is it, we're done. This is the end of the world almost. So this is the end of my business. And you try to think about once you come to terms with that, what would you do? What could I do? My creative mind started kind of thinking about, okay, what is the alternative? How will I manage to pay my bills? How I maintain this, and this, And it kind of, I guess in that, it kind of stimulated an influx of ideas of alternative ways of living my life, which you'd never, unless you get fired or something happens dramatically in your world, you don't normally think about that. But when a whole bunch of people are thinking the same thing, it's quite an interesting energy, because you share the same kind of conversation, the same fears, the same concerns, the same dreams, the same ways out of this kind of situation. So what I did with the business too is we just kind of everybody's working from home, and we started to kind of rotate people in the studio, get a bit of try to make some sense of the situation, try to create a new norm, which was, for most of the people, was quite nerve-wracking in the beginning. But over a few months, people became kind of accepting that. Ironically, for years, people have been asking to work from home 1 day a week, and now they work from home 4 days a week.
Just took a little virus to get us there. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, and it was the reason why it didn't happen before was partially trust thing, or partially productivity, or partially just traditional way of doing business. And what is the new way of doing business? It's much more fluid, it's much more trusting, much more, much better for certainly in our industry, you're able to do that. Not all industries can, but to have that, you have a better life balance as a result of that. So I think that it's been a real eye opener for everybody, and I think it's been. I don't want to sound glib though, because it's kind of like there's a lot of people have died, a lot of people have gone out of business. Obviously less so in Australia, but the rest of the world is a huge number of people that are in a terrible situation, and they're not going to be thinking right now about how to be creative. They're not going to be thinking about, the ones that are in that bad state are going to be just thinking, this is a terrible situation, with no end in sight. I think that the thing is to kind of maintain, if you can, some kind of maintain optimism, despite it being incredibly grim, and knowing that this time will pass, that there will be a cure, there will be vaccinations, there will be better times ahead, and to live with it and allow your mind to explore, ideate and explore and think and dream about a better scenario, which is, what we all do.
And essentially, taking a design approach to redesigning a new future. Thank you very much for coming on to the show, Vince.
That's cool.
Great to have you on the Second Renaissance, and look forward to co-creating a better world together.
Cool. Thanks, Anders.
For coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for lending us your ears and tuning into the podcast. It's been said that the greatest compliment you can give a person is to pay full attention to them and be present. So we do appreciate you lending us your ears here at the Second Renaissance, and hope you enjoy this first inaugural episode with Vince Frost. Next time, we interview Mika Utzon-Popov, an Australian and Danish artist who works across a wide range of mediums, creating site-specific sculptural installations, design, and drawings. He graduated from the National Art School in Sydney in 1995 and has created artworks all around the world. As you can tell by his surname, he is the grandson of the architect and the designer for the Sydney Opera House, and we're going to be exploring how growing up in a creative family has shaped his artistry and how he views creativity. We look forward to welcoming you back onto the show at the Second Renaissance.